Welcome to this masterclass. Today, we are completely throwing out the outdated idea that safety is just, a boring checklist of basic rules. Instead, we're stepping into a premium, elite operational training program. Our goal for this session is straightforward but incredibly profound. We are going to elevate your standard safety protocols into advanced professional mastery. We'll be breaking down the exact systems, the psychology, and the tactical execution used by the world's absolute best cleaning professionals. So, if you're ready to engineer a genuinely elite operational environment, you are in exactly the right place.
Here is our roadmap for the session. We're going to progress sequentially through 6 critical pillars: the elite operational system, chemical mastery and COSH, cross-contamination under BICS guidelines, environmental control, professional armor, and finally, advanced biomechanics. Let's dive right in.
Pillar 1. The elite operational system.
To kick things off, we really have to reframe our foundational mindset. Elite professionals don't just react to hazards, right? They proactively engineer them out of the environment. The quote you're seeing perfectly captures our core philosophy here. True professional safety integrates risk management, human behavior, environmental control, and strict procedural discipline. Once you stop viewing safety as this annoying regulatory hurdle and start treating it as a comprehensive operational system, well, your entire standard of execution elevates. You literally transition from being just a worker into a tactical professional.
So how do we actually execute that system? We use these 5 core principles of risk assessment. Now listen, this isn't something you do once a year on a clipboard. This is a dynamic, living process that you apply before, during, and after every single task. You've got to first identify the hazard, then dynamically assess the risk by calculating 3 specific things: the likelihood of an incident, the severity of potential harm, and the frequency of exposure. Only after you've done that do you apply preventive controls, follow your standardized safe work procedures, and continuously monitor the environment for any changes. This right here, this is the mental model of an elite operator.
Moving on to Pillar 2, Chemical Mastery and COSH Guidelines.
In this pillar, we're confronting unseen chemical threats. Mastery begins with instant visual hazard recognition. When you encounter standard universal warnings for flammable liquids or hazardous handling materials, you have to realize you're dealing with volatile substances. These can cause severe chemical burns, chronic respiratory illness, and massive environmental contamination. You absolutely must treat these symbols not as mere suggestions, but as strict operational boundaries.
And that brings us to the ultimate operational blueprint of chemical mastery, the Safety Data Sheet, or SDS. Consulting your SDS is an absolute necessity. It is an uncompromisable step before a chemical ever even leaves the storage room. Plus, mastering chemicals requires strict adherence to the universal golden rule of this entire industry: never, ever mix chemicals. Period. Doing so creates highly unpredictable and often lethal chemical reactions. Maintaining strict discipline here is how you ensure a highly controlled professional environment.
Pillar 3. Cross-contamination and BICS guidelines.
Let's shift our focus now from chemical threats to biological risks. To systematically mitigate these, the British Institute of Cleaning Science, BICSC, provides these essential color coding guidelines. By strictly assigning specific colors to specific zones, we effectively isolate medical and industrial products. We're designating areas based on their unique risks. For instance, you keep washer materials entirely separate from general office materials. This protocol also perfectly complies with food hygiene regulations, guaranteeing we prevent cross-contamination between raw and cooked food zones. Implementing this kind of visual system drastically reduces your liability for cross-infection.
But here's the catch. Environmental controls will fail completely if personal hygiene fails. That's why we enforce a strict zero-tolerance policy. There's absolutely no eating, drinking, or applying cosmetics in the active workspace. Now, this isn't about micromanagement. It's quite literally about life safety. A random chemical splash or an invisible residue can so easily contaminate a water bottle or your lip balm, and that leads to accidental, highly toxic ingestion.
Pillar 4, Environmental Control.
That level of personal discipline transitions us perfectly into environmental control. Because let's face it, the most high-tech, non-slip footwear and the most advanced flooring in the world will fail entirely if you lack fundamental housekeeping discipline. These protocols, outlined by the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety, are your primary layer of environmental defense against slips, trips, and falls. Cleaning up spills immediately, securing mats so they lay flat, simply closing storage drawers, and covering loose cables. These aren't just secondary, nice-to-have tasks. They are aggressive, proactive safety measures. An elite operator controls their environment completely before they even begin the technical work.
Part of that control is adapting your own physical movement to the space. It's absolutely critical. When you're walking on flat, potentially slick surfaces, you actually need to point your feet slightly outward. This increases your base of support, and you should be making wide turns at corners to avoid any sudden loss of traction. On the flip side, when you're navigating stairs or ramps, we shift into strict procedural discipline. You must always use handrails, ensure clear lines of sight, and consult specific method statements for any elevated work.
Pillar 5. Professional Armor and PPE Systems.
All right, it is time to equip our tactical defense. In this masterclass, we do not treat personal protective equipment as just an accessory. It is an essential professional armor system. We need a precise operational mapping of specific PPE to distinct hazards. We don't just lazily say, wear gloves. We purposefully select nitrile, latex, or neoprene based on the specific chemical absorption risk. For airborne particles, we utilize correct cartridge respirators and combine them with adequate environmental ventilation, like fume hoods. And here is a crucial pro tip. In highly hazardous chemical environments, strict policies often dictate the removal of contact lenses because they can actually trap toxic vapors right against the eye. Your armor has to be perfectly calibrated to your specific threat profile.
But remember, armor is completely useless if its structural integrity is compromised. Hence, the operational mandate for routine inspection. Before every single use, you've got to inspect your gear for microscopic holes, tears, or discoloration. And after your shift, proper decontamination is required so the material doesn't degrade overnight. If any piece of equipment is compromised, immediate replacement isn't optional. It is mandatory to maintain the safety integrity of your entire system.
And finally, Pillar 6, Advanced Biomechanics.
Elite professionals know that to succeed, they have to protect their own physical longevity through advanced ergonomic strategy. Drawing on insights from experts like physiotherapist Andrea Hawk, the fundamental law of cleaning biomechanics is this: all movement must come from the legs, never from the spine. Whenever possible, utilize telescopic tools to comfortably extend your reach and actively support your body weight on a stable surface with your free hand. Doing this entirely eliminates the kind of awkward twisting and overextension that leads to career-ending musculoskeletal disorders.
Now, these exact same principles apply when you're operating heavy machinery, like an iMop scrubber dryer. An elite operator isn't out there fighting the machine. They let the equipment do the heavy work. Operationally, this means you maintain a firm but relaxed grip with both hands, and crucially, you keep your wrists perfectly straight. You absolutely must avoid twisting your wrists while applying force. By aligning your joints correctly, you stay energized, efficient, and most importantly, pain-free.
We have now systematically dismantled the basics and built a robust framework for professional mastery. We've covered the proactive mindset, chemical controls, infection prevention, environmental discipline, tactical PPE, and physical longevity. So I want to leave you with one final provocative question to take back to your facilities. As you approach your very next shift, are you merely striving for basic compliance, or are you ready to execute an elite operational system? The tools, the frameworks, and the knowledge are now yours. It's time to go out there and implement them. Thank you for joining this masterclass.